Good day, everyone. We are excited to bring you part 5 of our series on setting up transactional replication within always on availability group. In today's episode, we are diving into how to incorporate both the distribution and publisher databases into the always on availability group. After integrating these databases, we will proceed to add the new distribution and publisher servers to our transactional replication setup. Following that, we will conduct thorough checks to ensure that both always on and transactional replication are functioning normally and correctly. To wrap up, we will perform failover and failback operations to confirm everything is running smoothly. Let's get started. Previously, we have added dist3 and pub3 to the distributor and publisher cluster. So in this video, we will basically be adding the database distribution and also the publisher database to always on availability group, and then we will configure the transactional replication. Yeah. So as a first step, what we need to do is we need to go to the distributor server, which was added newly, which in our case is dis3, and I'll be using this particular command here, which is sp_add distributor. I will use the distributor as dist3, and then I will be giving the password. If you are wondering where did we get this password, this is the password that we utilized when we configured the distributor for the first time. And if you don't remember that password, then I would suggest you to go back to video 4 of this series and then check how do you reset the distributor password. Yeah. Let's wait for it to complete. It is completed now. So if you can see here, we have added dis3 as in distributor. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the backup of the distributor database, and then I'm going to restore that on the dis3's SQL instance. So I'm going to take a backup of distribution database, and I'll be using this location, DC Ripple Data. It's a lab machine, so I'm utilizing this share. But on a production server, you're allowed to use an appropriate location. Okay, the full database backup is completed. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the transaction log backup of the distribution database. Let's wait for the backup to complete. So the backup is completed now. Let's go ahead and restore this backup on dist3. Let's use this command and then do the restoration here. So I'm first restoring the full database backup with no recovery, and then the transaction log with no recovery. Okay, I'm connected to dist3. Let's go ahead and execute it. Let's wait for the restore to complete, and once the restore completes, let's go ahead and configure the availability group. Yep, so now that the restoration is completed, let's go ahead and do a refresh here, and then let's check if the database is restored or not. Yeah, so if you can see here, the distribution database is in restoring state. Okay, now that it is in place, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the primary replica, which is dis1, and then I'm going to do this add replica here. Yeah, we have this availability replicas. Let's go ahead and do an add replica here. Click on next. Let's connect to dist2. Now let's click on next. Let's click on add replica, and then let's connect to dist3. Yeah, dist3 is connected. I'll be utilizing asynchronous replica here. So we have changed this to synchronous replica previously for some testing. So after setting it up, I'll change it back to asynchronous. Yeah. So dist3 is added as a secondary here. Endpoint would be access. Backup preference access. Listener, we will not be creating anything as of now. And then read-only routing, we don't use read-only routing here. Let's click on next. Since we have restored the database already, so let's use the join only operation. Let's click on next and then let's click on finish. Let's wait for this particular addition to complete, either to succeed or failure, and based on that we'll proceed further. We have an error, yeah. We will look at the error. Okay, so in our case, it basically failed. So let's look at the error. So the error basically tells like none of the IP address configured for availability group listener can be hosted by server DIS3. Either configure a public cluster network on which one of the specified IP address can be hosted, or add another listener IP address which can be hosted on a public cluster network for this server. So it basically tells like the IP address that dist3 belongs to, the subnet that's not present as far as the listener is concerned. Okay, so what we'll do is that we'll look at the listener also. We will try pinging DIS3, and then we will check if the subnet that is used for dist3 is part of the listener or not, and then we will work on it further. Let's look at other errors. So for this one, it basically tells like availability group DIS is not joined on the secondary replica. And also for another database, it basically tells like availability group is not joined to the secondary replica. So what we'll do now is like we will click on close, and then let's open the cluster administrator. And in the meantime, while the cluster administrator opens, let's open a command prompt and then ping dis3. Okay, so dis3 172.16.1.4, and the subnet is basically 172.16.1. Yeah, so that's the subnet. Let's look at it. Let's go to the role here, and then let's look at the listener. So if you see here, we have this listener here, and if you see here, the listener doesn't have the subnet of this, that is the IP address for this particular um, uh, a listener. Yeah, as far as dist3 subnet is concerned, we don't find an IP address for the listener related to this subnet. Yeah, in just in case if we fail over to dist3, if we don't have an appropriate IP address related to that subnet, then the listener might not come online. So that's the reason we were not allowed to add DIS3 as the secondary replica here. Okay, so now we know this. It is 172.16.1 and 172.16.1 is not here. Yep. So now what we need to do is like we need to add a listener to we need to add a IP address of the subnet range 172.16.1, an IP address here for under our listener. Yeah, that is something that we need to do. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to right click and click on properties, and then click on add here. And then I will use an IP address of 172.16.1.20. Please note that I'm explicitly showing this error so that when you guys are configuring it, you will be able to understand what this error is and what you need to do. Yeah. But as far as this activity on production is concerned, it is better you do all these things well before the actual activity. Yeah. In my case, I've already provisioned this IP address for the listener as far as DIS 3 subnet is concerned. But just want to show you guys, like, we might get an error if we have not configured the listener properly for that particular server. Yeah, so in our case, we have DIS1, DIS2, and DIS3. And what I've done is, like, each of these servers are on a different subnet. Yeah, it is basically like an activity that I'm trying to perform is like each server is on a different data center, and they have a different IP range. That is basically the subnet is completely different. Yeah. Now what I'm basically trying to do is, like, we already have DIS1 and DIS2, and now I'm trying to add DIS3, and we got this error, and now I'm trying to correct it. Okay, so now I'm bringing in this IP address 172.16 1.20. Okay, that's the pre-provisioned IP address for this listener. So let's click on OK here, and then let's click on OK here. Just notice, as soon as we did it, the role basically got stopped and started. Yeah, that's something that you need to keep in mind. But this activity, it's a big activity, and I'm pretty sure you will definitely be taking in downtime to perform that. Yeah, so now this is done. So now what we'll do, we will try adding it one more time. Yeah. So let's do a refresh here. And then now what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on join to viability group. Yeah, let's try that and see what happens. And then it is trying to connect to DIS3. So let's try, go ahead and do it. So let's click on OK here. Let's wait for it to complete. So it completed. I did not see any errors. So I just did a refresh, and let's look at the availability group dashboard. So if I look at the availability group dashboard, I'm seeing like we are having an error. Let's look at what the error is. Yeah. So it basically tells like it is not healthy. That's the message that I'm seeing here. Now let's go back to uh, the Object Explorer, and then what we'll do now is, like, let's go to DIS2. DIS2 supposed to be working fine because we did not have any issues there. Let's open the availability group there. As soon as I opened it, like, maybe it took some time to synchronize. DIS1 and DIS2 looks okay. Let's give it like a couple of more minutes and then see if everything is okay. Availability databases. Okay, so this 2 seems all good. Let's go to this 3, and then let's do a refresh here first. And if you see here, the distribution database is showing as restoring. Let's go to availability group here, and let's go to the databases. And if you see here, distribution database, we know it should work basically, yeah, because we have restored the distribution database. But the other database, user database Tumblr, we did not restore it. I just want to show you what will happen, so that's the reason I'm doing it. So let's try joining the distribution database first and see what happens. Let's wait for it to complete. So here we can see that as soon as I did a join, we were able to get this working. So let's do a refresh one more time. and then do it. And if you can see here, the distribution database is no longer restoring. Yeah, since it's a distribution, since it is a system database, we are not seeing it synchronized, not synchronized, or whatever it is. We are not seeing it since it is a system database. So what we'll do is like let's do a refresh here. So now if you see here, distribution database looks all good. Yeah, it is just a database tumbler that is having the issue. Yeah, that is because we do not restore the other database. Yeah, so in my case, I actually don't require this tumbler database. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just remove that. Or what you need to do is like you just need to take a backup and then restore it, and then you need to set it up. So here in this case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to just go ahead and remove that. Let's go ahead and remove it. It's removed. You try refreshing it. Yeah, the database is online. You try refreshing it in DIS2, it will be in restoring state. Okay, it is showing us not synchronizing. Let's give it some more time. Let's do a refresh here. And then so the dashboard is all green now. Yeah, it took some time. So all good here. Yeah. So also let's look at disk 3. And everything looks good. Yeah, I don't need that user database. I just created that user database just to get this availability group created for the first time. Yeah, because you need to have that for you to add your distribution database into it. So it's all done now. So now that we have added the distribution database, let's proceed on to the next step. Okay, so now what we'll do, we will, now that we have added the distribution database, let's go to the publisher server. Yep, and then what we'll do is like we will add the publisher database, which is your user database called JBS Wiki, which is part of your replication as well to the pub3. We basically will have to add this pub3 as one of the nodes in the always on availability group. If you look at the always on dashboard here, it is pretty clear that we just have pub1 and pub2. Yeah. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to back up this database, and then I will restore it on the pub3 server, and we will join this particular server. Yeah, so that is what I'm going to do now. Let's take a full database backup of JBS Wiki to this location. And once the full database backup completes, let's take a transaction log backup as well. Yep, both are completed. Now what I'm going to do on the pub3 server, that is pub3 SQL instance, I'm going to restore this JBS Wiki database with no recovery. First using the full database backup, then with the transaction log backup. Let's go ahead and do it. Let's wait for the restore to complete. Okay, the restoration is completed. Let's do a refresh, then check if the database is in restoring mode. Yeah. So if you can see here, the database is in restoring mode. So we'll go to the primary replica again, the publisher primary replica. Let's look at the database once. JBS Wiki is all good. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a add replica here. Yeah. So let's click on next, connect, next. Let's add pub3. Notice I'm going to Okay, so here we are getting this message stating that always on feature is not enabled on SQL instance pub3. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to enable that. We have not enabled it, so I'm going to enable that now. Okay, so if you look at pub3, enable always on availability group checkbox is not enabled, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's click on apply. Click on OK and then start it. Okay, so it is started now. Let's go ahead and try adding the replica back. Yeah. Let's try now. Should be on the publisher server. Yep. Let's click on connect now and then see what happens. So if you see here, this time we did not get that error because we enabled that option from the configuration manager. Yep. So I'll be using asynchronous again. We have changed this availability mode to synchronous for testing purpose. Once this is completed, I will change it back to asynchronous. Yeah. Endpoints going to be same. Backup preference not going to change anything. Listener. Last time for the distributor, I just want to show you guys the error, so I did not add the IP address, but for publisher, I have already added it here. Yeah. So just to check that once. In the meantime, let's click on next here. I'm going to use this join only option because we have restored the database there. Okay, so let's look at the cluster, cluster, which is your publisher cluster, and go to the roles here. And if you see here, we have 3 IP addresses. Yeah. So this new IP address 172.16.121, it is added here. So let's go ahead and add it and then let's see if it is going to complete all fine, or in case if there is an error, we will have a look at it further. Let's wait for it to complete. Joining secondaries. So this is the most important thing, joining JBS wiki to availability group PUB on PUB3, which is your secondary replica, then new secondary replica. So if you see here, the join is completed fine. We did not get any errors. Let's go to the availability group dashboard and ensure everything is looking okay. So now you see here, there is a warning. So we are seeing this warning here. Okay, so now everything looks good. So it needed that 3 or 4 seconds. So everything looks good as of now. So now let's proceed on to the replication part. Yeah, let's go to the distributor server. And then what we'll do is like we will execute this command to add the distribution DB. Yeah, so we will have to do that manually on the DIS3. So let's go ahead and do it. So it is completed now. So now what we'll do is like, okay, so now what we'll do is like we will add the publisher details to the newly added distributor, which is your DIS3. Yeah. So if you see here, I'm using this command add dist publisher. Publisher is pub1, pub2, and pub3, and then I'm giving the a replication snapshot folder. Yeah, please remember we are not using snapshot for this particular series, but just for this configuration purpose, we are providing that replication snapshot folder. Okay, let's go ahead and execute it on disk 3. So on the we are getting this message which basically tells like our distribution database needs to be in a readable state on secondary replica when distribution database is part of availability group. Okay, so let's look at the readable secondary properties of the availability group. It would have been set to no. We will change it to S. Yeah. I'm just creating all these errors so that you are well aware of it, so that you prepare yourself just in case you need to do it on the production, so that you note down all these errors and then make sure like you guys perform all these things well before the actual activity so that you will not get any errors. Yeah, just doing a video and then completing everything without any errors is not going to add any value. That's the reason I'm trying to bring in all these things so that everyone is aware what is going on. Yeah, let's execute now. So it is basically telling like the server pub1 is already listed as a publisher, so it is added. So now let's execute the other two things. Okay, so let's do the same thing for the publisher also, the publisher availability group. Let's do a refresh. Availability replicas looks good. Let's click on properties and then change the readable secondary to yes. Done. Okay, so now what we'll do is like we will add the new publisher pub3 on disk 1 and disk 1 and disk 2. Yeah, so on disk 3 we basically told like these are the three publishers. Yeah, because disk 3 we added newly. Since publisher 3 is also added newly, we need to tell disk 1 that we have a new publisher also called pub3 is completed. Let's do the same thing for disk 2 as well. Let's tell disk 2 that we have a new publisher called pub3. Yeah, let's go ahead and execute it. Okay, now what we'll do is like we will create a link server on disk 3 to the subscriber listener. Okay, so I'm on disk 3, so let's go ahead and create that. Then if you see here disk 3, let's do a refresh and you have the link server for subscriber created now. So now what I'm going to do is like I'm going to run some command in the publisher servers. Yeah, on the pub3 specifically, the one that we recently added as far as the publisher server is concerned. Let's on the pub3 server we will run this command which basically is to add it as a add it to the distributor, and I'm using the listener name here. DISL is the listener, and this is the password that we have used previously, and in the previous video we reset the distributor password also. That password I'm using here. Let's go ahead and execute it. Let's wait for it to complete. Yeah, and we are getting this message: you have updated the publisher property active successfully. Yeah, so now this is done. Now what we'll do is like we'll go back to the distributor. Yeah, and what we'll do is like we will execute this query. Yeah, and then we will we'll query this to print the publisher listener. Yeah, for the new distributor secondary, which in our case is DIS3. Yeah, so let's go and execute this query. And then if you see here, we are getting this message: unable to query sys availability replicas at availability group pub L for the server name Uh, so the error is so we are getting this error. Yeah, so NT authority anonymous logon. Yeah, it's a kind of a double op error. So what we need to do is like to check this further. We will basically have to connect to we need to do RDP to dist3, yeah, and then we need to open the SSMS and then try it from there. Yeah, let me connect to it and then I will resume the video back. Okay, so now we are connected to dist3. I have RDP to dist3 and then I'm connected to DIS3 as well. Let's execute this query to verify the redirection. Okay, so I'm able to see an error. It basically tells like the subscribers sub L of original publisher pub1 does not appear as remote servers at redirected publisher pub3 run. So it is basically asking us to create a link server on the for the subscriber on the pub3 SQL Server instance. Yeah. Okay, so let's go to pub3. So we're on the publishers. Let's go to pub3 and then create this link server to the listener sub L. Yeah, let's go ahead and create it. So let's execute it. It's created now. Let's do a refresh here. You can see that sub L link server is added now. So now what we'll do is like we will execute that query one more time and then see what happens this time. Okay, now if you can see here, the redirection also is all good. So now what I'm going to do, the replication setup seems to be okay. I'm going to apply a tracer token and then I will do failover, failback and then ensure everything is okay. Let's connect the publisher listener, which is PUBL, and then connect to the replication monitor. And then let's insert a tracer token and see if everything is working fine. So as of now, I don't see any errors. So let's insert a tracer token. And then let's wait for it to complete. This proves that everything is working fine. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to fail over availability group, always on availability group from dist1 to dist3 and pub1 to pub3 and check if everything is working fine after the failover. Yeah. So now if you look at dist3, this is the secondary. So before the failover, what I'll do is like I will make everything as synchronous and then do failover. Yeah, that will make sure like I will not have any data loss. Let's click on OK here. Let's do the same thing for publisher as well. Yeah. So let's click on properties and then let's change it to synchronous. And once the failover test is completed, what I will do is like I will change it back to asynchronous. Yeah. So now let's go to dist3 and then do a failover. Click on next. No data loss. So let's go ahead and click finish here. Let's wait for the failover to complete. Okay, the failover is completed now. Let's click on close. Then let's look at the always on dashboard and ensure everything is working fine. Okay, so right now there is a warning for DIS1. Let's give it some time. And everything looks good. So the failover is completed. Disk3 is the new primary now. Yeah. Now let's do the same thing for the publisher as well. Let's failover from pub1 to pub3, and then let's look at the replication. Let's do a refresh, then go to the availability group, do a failover, yeah. No data loss, so let's click on next and then click finish. If you see here, the failover is happening now, the manual failover is happening, and it just completed. Let's look at the always on dashboard and ensure everything is green there. Okay, everything looks good. So now what we'll do is like, let's connect to the listener and then check if the replication looks okay. Let's open the replication monitor. Let's open the required publication. In our case, it is JBS Wiki RAPL. So if you look at the log reader agent, we are able to see that there are no replicated transactions, and also on the distribution agent, everything looks good. I don't see any issues at all. All looks good. Now what I'll do is like I will try inserting a tracer token. Yeah. And if you can see here, the tracer token has moved forward, and log reader agent, you see one transactions with one commands. And for the distribution agent, also like the transaction, the tracer token that we put through has basically moved from the publisher database to distribution database, and then from the distribution database to the subscriber. So in this video, we added DIS3 and PUB3 into the always on availability group replica, and then added pub3 and dis3 as the distributor and publisher additional server. And once we did it, we ran the required scripts, and then we created the transactional replication for each of these two nodes. And once that was done, we tried a tracer token, everything was working fine, and then we did a failover. We basically failed over from disk 1 previous primary to disk 3, which is the current primary. So that's a new server. So if you see here, disk 3 is the primary, and likewise, as far as the publication is concerned, we have pub3 as the primary. Let me refresh it, and then if you see here, pub3 is the primary. We failed over everything from disk 1 to disk 3, and then pub1 to pub3, and then we tested the tracer token, and everything went fine. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Jai Hind.